"It's too deep, I can't," she cried. The rancher reached in and pulled a secret 20 years ago. The twin suns of Arelon, 5 hung low in the orange sky, casting long shadows across the dusty expanse of the Jensen Ranch. The planet's red soil was cracked and dry, but clusters of biodomed pens shimmered in the light, holding robotic cattle that grazed under the careful watch of automated drones. The wind whispered through the canyons, carrying faint echoes that sounded almost like voices. Clara Jensen wiped the sweat from her forehead and squinted across the canyon rim. She had been out checking the perimeter all afternoon, making sure the cattle drones hadn't wandered into the fissures that dotted the landscape. A faint humming drew her attention, an unnatural vibration in the air, almost as if the canyon itself were alive. She furrowed her brow. It had started just yesterday, a subtle pulse from the ground that made the metal fences vibrate. Probably just the wind, she muttered to herself. But the feeling prickled at the back of her neck, a warning she couldn't shake. As Clara climbed down a small slope, her boot caught on something half buried in the soil. She knelt and brushed away the dirt, revealing a jagged crack in the canyon wall. But this was no ordinary fissure. A soft blue glow pulsed from within, as if something deep beneath the surface was breathing. Clara's eyes widened. She took a cautious step back, then another. A hum grew louder, vibrating through her chest. Her hands trembled. She wanted to run, but curiosity rooted her to the spot. Carefully, she reached out, touching the warm, smooth edge of the fissure. The glow seemed to respond, brightening slightly where her fingers brushed. A soft whisper echoed inside her mind, so faint she almost doubted it was real. "Help, please," it said. Clara stumbled backward, heart hammering. She could feel her pulse in her ears. The canyon had never been like this. Something was there, something she didn't understand, and it scared her. She sank to her knees, clutching her head. "It's too deep. I can't," she whispered, tears threatening to spill. She didn't even know what she couldn't do. Something inside the canyon called to her, and she felt powerless to respond. A soft voice broke her panic. "Clara?" She looked up to see Jeb McCall striding across the canyon floor, his wide-brimmed hat shielding his weathered face. Jeb had been a rancher on Arelon 5 for longer than anyone could remember, a man who had seen dust storms swallow entire valleys and survived more than one close call with rogue hoverbikes. But even he seemed cautious now, studying the glowing fissure with a frown. "You called for me?" Jeb asked, his voice low and steady. Clara nodded, her words caught in her throat. "You have to see this," she said finally, pointing to the glowing crack. I don't know what it is. It's alive, almost." Jeb knelt beside her, examining the fissure. He ran a gloved hand over the edge, careful not to disturb it too much. His brow furrowed as the glow reflected in his eyes. Never seen anything like this before. Could be a mineral reaction, or maybe one of those old settler devices left behind. But I've heard rumors." Clara's curiosity overpowered her fear. "Rumors? About what?" "Old stories say the settlers of Arelon 5 experimented with things deep underground. Things they thought would help the planet, or maybe themselves. Most of it was buried after a few accidents. People said some secrets were too dangerous to dig up." Something about the story made her stomach twist. She had grown up listening to tales of Arelon 5's strange past, but she had always assumed they were just stories, meant to scare children. Now, standing before this glowing fissure, the tales felt real. Jeb stood and surveyed the canyon. "Well, looks like the secrets found us first." He took a deep breath and pulled a small tool from his belt, a long metal rod with a circular grip at the end. With steady hands, he reached into the fissure. The glow intensified, casting long, shifting shadows across his face. Clara held her breath. The hum of the canyon grew louder, vibrating through her boots. She wanted to look away, to run, but her eyes stayed fixed on Jeb. He disappeared halfway into the crack, reaching deeper than anyone had dared in years. Then, with a sudden pull, he extracted a metallic cylinder, roughly the size of a large water canister. Its surface was etched with intricate alien symbols that shimmered faintly as if alive. The cylinder pulsed with a soft blue light, and the hum subsided into a gentle vibration that resonated in the canyon walls. What is it?" Jeb shook his head, turning the cylinder over in his hands. "Don't know yet. But whatever this is, it's been here a long time. Could be a message, a device, or something else entirely." The air around them seemed to still. Even the robotic cattle stopped moving, their sensors picking up the strange energy. Clara felt a mix of fear and wonder. She had spent her life on this ranch, tending cattle and fixing machines, never imagining she would stumble upon something so extraordinary. Jeb placed the cylinder on the ground. "We'll have to take this back to the cabin, study it carefully. No sudden moves. The wrong person finding this could cause a lot of trouble." Clara nodded, her eyes never leaving the cylinder. She felt the pull of its mystery, like it was calling her name, daring her to uncover its secrets. But a small part of her hesitated. She knew instinctively that some things were buried for a reason. They began the slow trek back to the cabin, the canyon's glow fading behind them. The twin suns dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. The wind whispered once more, carrying an almost musical tone that seemed to hum in rhythm with the cylinder's pulse. By the time they reached the cabin, the stars were beginning to shimmer overhead. Jeb carefully carried the cylinder inside, placing it on a reinforced table that had seen countless repairs over the years. Clara watched, curiosity battling caution. "What do you think it is?" she asked softly. Jeb leaned back, running a hand over his beard. "I think it's a piece of the past we weren't meant to see. But now that it's here, we have to find out what it wants us to do, and whatever it is, it's not going to be simple." Clara felt a thrill of excitement mixed with fear. Her life had been ordinary, predictable. Now, in the span of an afternoon, everything had changed. A secret buried for 20 years had reached out from the depths, and she was part of its story. She glanced at the cylinder one more time. It pulsed softly, almost like it was alive. And though she didn't understand why, she knew one thing for certain. The adventure had just begun. The cabin was quiet except for the soft hum of the metallic cylinder resting on the table. The walls, made of weathered metal panels, reflected the fading glow of Arlon, Five's twin sons. Outside, the wind whispered across the desert plains, but inside, the silence was almost sacred. Clara Jensen stood near the doorway, watching Jeb McCall carefully examine the cylinder. He rotated it slowly, letting the alien symbols shimmer under the dim cabin light. Clara's curiosity burned stronger than ever. "Do you think it's dangerous?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jeb shook his head. "Dangerous? Maybe. But more than that, it's important. Whoever made this wanted it to last, to survive time itself. That usually means there's something worth finding inside." The cylinder pulsed softly as if it were alive, casting dancing shadows across the walls. She felt drawn to it, a strange warmth flowing through her hands. The hum in the air seemed to match her heartbeat. Jeb tapped the cylinder lightly with his gloved finger. A soft hiss sounded, and the top of the cylinder split open like a flower blooming. A holographic projection emerged, glowing blue and flickering at first. Clara gasped as the image sharpened. The hologram showed a small laboratory, dimly lit, with figures moving in careful precision. Machines hummed, strange devices glimmered, and in the center of the room was a man speaking to a group of settlers. His voice was calm, almost soothing, though Clara could not hear it. The hologram had no sound. Jeb's eyes narrowed. This is a recording. From 20 years ago, I'd say." Clara leaned in, studying the scene. The settlers were handling a strange orb, much like the cylinder, but much larger. It pulsed with the same soft blue light. Machines seemed to monitor it constantly, as if it were alive. "Look at the symbols," Jeb said, pointing to markings on the walls and equipment. "These match the ones on the cylinder. Whoever these settlers were, they were working on something big. Something the rest of the world wasn't meant to know." Clara felt a shiver. The idea that her own parents could be part of this experiment made her stomach twist. She had grown up on the ranch, helping with livestock and machines, never imagining that her family had secrets buried so deep. "Do you think it's safe?" she asked again. Jeb studied the hologram, his brow furrowed. "Safe? But I do know curiosity is a dangerous thing, and right now, curiosity is our only chance to understand this." Clara took a deep breath. She felt a strange connection to the cylinder, almost as if it recognized her presence. Then suddenly, the hologram shifted. The figures turned toward the camera, as if sensing something. One of them, a woman, stepped forward and held up a device pointing toward the orb. A message appeared, written in glowing alien symbols. Jeb squinted at the projection. "I can't read it directly, but I think it's a warning. The artifact, whatever it is, it reacts to intentions. If the wrong people find it, it could be misused."
Misused? By whom?
The thought of outsiders discovering the cylinder, or worse, the larger orb from the hologram, made her chest tighten. As if sensing her thoughts, the cylinder pulsed stronger. A soft vibration ran through the cabin floor. Clara's eyes widened. The hologram flickered, and suddenly, a map appeared, projected onto the table. Lines traced a path through the canyons behind the ranch, leading to a series of tunnels deep underground. Jeb rubbed his chin. Looks like the settlers left instructions, a guide. But why here? Why leave this for someone 20 years later? Maybe they knew someone would find it. Maybe they knew it would be me. Jeb shook his head with a small smile. Now, don't go thinking destiny chose you. It's more like opportunity. You've got the courage to face it, and that counts. The soft glow of the hologram highlighted the canyon walls visible through the cabin window. Clara felt a thrill mixed with fear. She knew the tunnels were dangerous. She had explored them as a child, but never this deep. And now the hologram hinted at something more, something alive waiting at the bottom. Do we follow it? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jeb's eyes met hers. We don't have a choice. If this artifact is real, someone else will find it eventually, and I'd rather it be in the hands of people who understand it than those who don't care at all. She had spent her life tending robotic cattle and repairing broken hover drones. Adventure had never seemed part of her plan, but the cylinder and its secrets had changed everything. That night, they packed supplies for the journey. Water, food rations, a few energy torches, and Jeb's old mapping device. Clara carried the cylinder carefully, feeling its hum in her hands. Every step toward the canyon the next morning felt heavier with anticipation. The canyon looked different under the light of Aralon, 5 suns. Dust swirled lazily across the cracks in the red soil. Clara traced the faint glowing lines from the holographic map, following them to the entrance of the tunnel. This way, Jeb said, pointing to a narrow crevice barely wide enough to slip through. The canyon's shadows stretched long, blending with the soft glow from the tunnel's opening. Clara took a deep breath and stepped inside. The tunnel was cooler than the canyon above, and the walls shimmered faintly with bioluminescent moss that pulsed in rhythm with the cylinder. She felt a strange sense of calm, as if the tunnel itself were guiding them. As they moved deeper, they found signs of previous explorers, old tools, broken drones, and faded markings on the walls. Each clue told a story of someone who had ventured here before, perhaps seeking the same secret they now pursued. Some had clearly given up, leaving the tunnels forever. Clara shivered. Do you think it's waiting for us? Jeb smiled faintly. I think it's waiting for the right people, not just anyone. And right now, that's us. Hours passed as they navigated twists and turns, climbing over rocks and stepping carefully across narrow ledges. The soft glow of the cylinder lit the way, and the hum became almost musical, echoing off the walls. The deeper they went, the more alive the tunnels seemed. Strange plants, glowing with soft light, responded to their presence, moving slightly as if acknowledging them. Then they reached a chamber larger than anything they had imagined. The walls curved upward into darkness, and in the center floated a faint, larger glow. Claire's eyes widened. The hologram's orb, much bigger than the cylinder, was here, hovering a few feet above the floor. It pulsed gently, casting shadows that danced across the walls like living beings. Clara felt her breath catch. It's beautiful, she whispered. Jeb nodded slowly. And alive, I think. Look at the way it responds to your presence. The orb pulsed faster when Clara stepped closer, and she felt warmth flow through her hands, even though she hadn't touched it. It was as if the artifact recognized her, acknowledging her courage and curiosity. Suddenly, the cylinder in her backpack vibrated intensely, projecting a final holographic message. The figures from 20 years ago appeared, their hands extended toward the orb. Clara realized that the settlers had left instructions not just to find the orb, but to connect with it, to understand it, to earn its trust. Jeb placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Looks like we've reached the first real test, he said quietly. This isn't just about discovery. It's about understanding. We have to prove we mean no harm. Clara swallowed, her heart racing. She had imagined adventure before, but never like this. The artifact was alive, ancient, and full of secrets she could not yet comprehend. And yet, she felt ready. Something deep inside told her that this moment was the beginning of a story that would change everything, not just for her, but for the ranch, the canyon, and maybe even the entire planet. The chamber seemed to hum in anticipation, as if waiting for her next move. Clara took a step forward, hand outstretched toward the glowing orb. She felt the warmth of its energy, pulsing like a heartbeat in rhythm with her own. And then she understood. This was no ordinary object. It was a guardian, a test, and a connection all in one. Her journey had only just begun. The air in the cavern was cool and alive, humming with the pulse of the glowing orb that floated in the center of the chamber. Clara Jensen stood in front of it, her hand still extended, feeling the warmth that seemed to flow through her fingertips. Jeb McCall remained a step behind, watching carefully, his eyes scanning the shadows of the enormous underground space. "Do you feel that?" Clara whispered. "It's like it knows me." Jeb nodded slowly. "Yes. And it responds to intention, I think." The hologram didn't lie. This isn't just a relic. It's alive in some way. We need to understand it, not just touch it. Clara stepped closer and the orb pulsed brighter. It projected faint lines of light that traced patterns across the floor, walls, and ceiling. At first they seemed random, but gradually they formed shapes resembling paths and symbols, almost like a map. Clara's eyes widened. "It's showing us something. A path deeper into the tunnels." Jeb examined the projections. "Looks like we follow the pattern. But it's not just physical. It might be mental, too. The orb could respond to our thoughts, our choices. Step carefully." Clara nodded, and together they stepped into the mapped path. The tunnels twisted and turned, wider than any natural cave, yet with smooth walls like they had been carved carefully. Strange, luminous plants clung to the walls, glowing softly, their tendrils moving gently as if observing them. Each step Clara took seemed to make the lights flicker and pulse, mirroring her heartbeat. The deeper they went, the more the tunnels reacted. Small glowing shapes floated through the air, forming symbols that Clara recognized from the cylinder and the hologram. It was as if the cave itself was alive, guiding them toward something, testing them along the way. "Look at this," Clara said, pointing to a wide stone wall covered in a mosaic of light. The patterns shifted as they watched, forming images of settlers working with glowing orbs and devices, showing hands extended almost like the hologram had. Clara could almost see their intentions, their careful movements as they sought to control the artifact without harming it. Jeb stepped forward, tracing the images with his gloved fingers. The settlers left clues, but also warnings. The orb responds to respect. If we act out of greed or fear, it might shut down or reject us entirely. So, it's like a test. "Yes," Jeb said. "A test of understanding, patience, and courage." They continued following the lighted path. Soon, they reached a narrow bridge of rock stretching over a deep chasm. The glowing plants on either side seemed to sway as if beckoning them forward. Clara felt the hum of the orb in her pack grow stronger, urging her onward. Jeb went first, testing each step carefully. Clara followed, feeling the floor vibrate faintly beneath her boots. Halfway across, the light shifted, forming shapes that mimicked their movements. Clara laughed softly. "It's playful," she whispered. "It knows we're here, and it's testing us in its own way." Jeb smiled. "Stay focused. Playful or not, this path is not simple." On the other side of the chasm, the tunnel widened into another chamber. This one was filled with glowing crystal formations that hung from the ceiling and jutted from the floor like jagged teeth of light. The crystals pulsed softly, synchronized with the cylinder and the orb. Clara reached out to touch one, and instantly a warm sensation ran through her hand. She drew back in awe. "Everything here is connected," she murmured. "The orb, the cylinder, the crystals, even the tunnel walls. They're all part of the same system," Jeb nodded. "It's like a living map. And we're part of it now. But there's more ahead. Look at the far end of the chamber." Clara turned to see a large doorway carved into the rock, glowing faintly with alien symbols. The pattern shifted, forming images that resembled keys or locks. She realized that to go further, they needed to solve something. An intellectual puzzle. "Looks like another test," she said. Jeb examined the symbols carefully. "Yes, the settlers must have left these for anyone brave enough to follow the path. I think it's about understanding patterns, not just stepping forward blindly." Clara studied the symbols. Each one represented a combination of light and motion. She held her hand near one, and it pulsed in response, brightening slightly. Slowly she realized the orb was reacting to her focus and intention. She moved her hands carefully, tracing the shapes, following the rhythm of the pulsing lights. "Like this?" she asked. Jeb nodded. "Yes, but keep your mind clear. The orb reads more than movement. It reads intent. Focus on understanding, not fear or desire." Clara took a deep breath and moved deliberately, letting her thoughts be calm and clear. The symbols pulsed brighter with each correct motion. When she completed the sequence, the doorway shimmered and shifted, opening to a new tunnel that descended deeper into the canyon's heart. Clara felt a sense of awe. They had passed the first real test. The orb's hum was now steady, welcoming, as if it approved of their intentions. "Good work," Jeb said softly, clapping her shoulder, "but we're far from finished. The deeper we go, the more the artifact will challenge us." The new tunnel was narrower and steeper, forcing them to climb down carefully. Strange plants and bioluminescent moss lined the walls, reacting to their presence. The deeper they went, the more alive the space felt, as if the canyon itself were watching, guiding, and testing them. After what felt like hours, they reached a vast underground chamber. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, filled with sparkling crystals and glowing lines of energy that crisscrossed the air. At the center hovered a much larger orb, pulsing gently, similar to the cylinder but more powerful. Clara felt its energy wash over her, filling her with warmth and a sense of purpose. "This must be it," Clara whispered. "The real artifact?" "Yes. But remember what I said. The artifact responds to intention. We need to prove we mean no harm, that we're here to understand, not control." Clara stepped forward, raising her hand slowly toward the orb. It pulsed brighter, sending ripples of light across the chamber. She felt a connection forming, as if the orb were communicating directly with her. Thoughts, images, and emotions flickered in her mind, visions of settlers, of the planet's past, of life flourishing when guided wisely. Jeb watched silently, sensing the depth of the connection. It's showing you, showing us, what it wants. We need to listen. She let herself focus, sending calm, peaceful intentions toward the orb. The pulsing light expanded, illuminating the entire chamber. The crystals shimmered in response, and the hum of the artifact merged with the vibration of the cylinder in her pack. It was as if the orb approved, acknowledging their courage, patience, and understanding. Clara felt a sense of awe and responsibility. This was no ordinary discovery. It was a living intelligence, a guardian, and it had chosen to reveal itself to them. The chamber seemed to respond, shifting subtly. A hidden passage opened, revealing stairs leading deeper into the tunnels. The orb pulsed softly, almost as if urging them onward. Jeb glanced at Clara. "Looks like our journey isn't finished. There's more to learn, more to understand. But for now, we've passed the first major trial." Clara smiled, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. "I never imagined this. It's beautiful, alive. And it trusts us, at least a little." The two of them stepped forward, ready to follow the path revealed by the orb. The tunnel stretched deeper, glowing softly, alive with energy, guiding them toward secrets that had been hidden for decades. Every step brought new discoveries, new challenges, and the growing realization that their adventure would change not only their lives, but the future of the canyon, the ranch, and perhaps even the planet itself. And somewhere deep in the heart of Erelon, 5, the orb pulsed gently, waiting for the next act of courage, patience, and understanding. Clara and Jeb had come this far, but the deepest mysteries were still ahead. The deeper they went into the cavern, the warmer and more vibrant the air felt. Every step Clara Jensen and Jeb McCall took seemed to pulse in harmony with the glowing orb hovering at the center of the chamber they had just left. The orb's light reached far into the tunnel, illuminating paths lined with alien crystals and glowing moss. Clara could still feel its warmth in her hands, the pulse echoing like a heartbeat. "This place, it's alive," Clara whispered, awe softening her voice. "I feel it, Jeb. It's watching us, guiding us." "Yes, and I think it's also testing us. We've made it this far, but the real test may be what we do next." The orb's pulse seemed to grow stronger as they approached a narrow passage, lined with glowing alien symbols that shimmered like liquid light. She noticed that each step caused a subtle change in the symbols' patterns, almost like the tunnel was reacting to their intentions and emotions. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's like the walls themselves can see us." Jeb smiled faintly. "Then let's make sure we show them we're worthy." They followed the lighted path, careful to step deliberately on the crystal-studded floor. The tunnel widened into a vast underground chamber. Here, the air shimmered with a soft golden glow, and in the center floated the largest orb they had yet encountered. It hovered silently, radiating energy and warmth that filled the entire space. Clara felt her chest tighten with awe. This is it," she breathed. "The heart of it all." Jeb stepped closer, his eyes scanning the walls. Strange markings lined every surface, showing images of settlers, planets, and flourishing ecosystems. The settlers, They were guardians, he said softly. They weren't just experimenting. They were preparing this place to protect life, to nurture it. Clara reached out tentatively toward the orb. The moment her fingers hovered near its surface, a wave of warmth and understanding washed over her. She could feel visions forming in her mind, scenes of water flowing across deserts, crops growing in barren soil, wildlife thriving. The orb was alive, and it communicated not with words, but with feelings and visions. It wants to show us what it can do, Clara whispered. It wants to teach us. Jeb nodded, but it's also testing. Notice how it reacts to your presence? You're calm, curious, and respectful. That's why it's letting you see this. Clara stepped closer, and the orb pulsed gently, spreading light across the chamber. The visions became more vivid, showing settlers making choices, choosing patience over haste, understanding over fear. Clara realized that the artifact had been designed to respond to morality and intention, not just skill. Suddenly a thought occurred to her. Jeb, what if someone else comes here? Someone who doesn't care about understanding or helping the planet? Jeb's expression grew serious. Then they could misuse it. That's why the settlers left these tests. Only those who prove themselves worthy can interact with it safely. The orb pulsed faster as Clara's concern grew. It seemed to sense the danger of outside interference. She took a deep breath, centering herself. I understand. We have to prove we care. That we want to help, not take. Jeb watched silently as Clara extended her hand fully, letting her feelings, her curiosity, respect, and hope flow into the orb. Slowly, the artifact began to respond, expanding its glow until the entire chamber shimmered with golden light. The walls and crystals reflected the pulse, creating patterns that danced across the floor like living constellations. Clara felt a connection unlike anything she had ever experienced. The orb was teaching her, guiding her, and testing her all at once. She understood the settlers' intentions now. The artifact was meant to nurture life, to help the planet thrive, but it required guardians who could approach it with the right heart and mind. Jeb stepped forward cautiously. It's responding to you, to both of us. It's testing our partnership, not just individually, but together.
Clara smiled faintly.
Then we have to trust each other, and trust it. As they stood together, the orb pulsed with greater intensity. Lines of light shot out from its center, connecting to the walls, crystals, and even the floor. The chamber seemed to breathe with life, vibrating in harmony with the glowing orb. The visions shifted, showing the planet's desert plains being transformed into green fields, sparkling rivers carving through the canyons, and life spreading where there had once been only dust. Clara gasped. It can change the planet! Yes, but only if we guide it wisely. And I think it's asking us to promise something. To be responsible. Clara stepped closer to the orb and spoke aloud, even though she wasn't sure it needed words. We promise to protect life, to help this planet thrive, and to use your power only to create, not destroy. The orb pulsed in acknowledgement, brighter than ever. Clara felt a rush of warmth spread through her body, as if the artifact itself was embracing her promise. The cylinder in her pack vibrated in harmony, its glow matching the orb's pulse. She realized that the settlers had left it as a key, linking her to the larger artifact. Jeb placed a hand on her shoulder. You did it.
You spoke for both of us.
And it accepted. Clara felt a sense of peace. The fear she had carried since discovering the fissure melted away. The canyon, the tunnels, the glowing plants, all of it seemed to sigh in relief, responding to the harmony she had brought. Suddenly, the chamber shifted subtly. A hidden passage opened, revealing stairs that led toward the surface. Light from the twin suns above seeped in, glowing softly at the end of the tunnel. The orb pulsed gently, guiding them back toward the world above. Clara turned to Jeb. It's showing us the way back. It trusts us now. It wants us to share its knowledge, to nurture the land above. And we will. The settlers started this, and now it's our turn to continue their work.
We can do this, Clara. Together.
As they climbed the stairs, the glowing lines of the orb followed them, illuminating the tunnels like a guiding river of light. The air grew warmer as they neared the canyon above, and the scent of desert blooms mixed with the mineral-rich tunnel air. When they finally emerged into the open canyon, the suns were low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the land. Clara held the cylinder carefully, now fully understanding its significance. The artifact below had awakened something within her. Knowledge, courage, and the responsibility to guide it wisely. The canyon looked different now, alive in a way it had never seemed before. The soft glow from the tunnel and the orb's pulse lingered in her mind, a reminder of the secret waiting beneath the surface. "We did it," Clara whispered. "We passed the test," Jeb smiled. "Yes, and the real work begins now. The canyon, the ranch, the planet, everything can flourish if we do this right. And I have a feeling we will." Clara looked at the cylinder one last time. Its glow was gentle now, stable, like a heartbeat in rhythm with the world. She felt a deep connection to the artifact, to the tunnels, and to the promise she had made. For the first time in her life, she felt truly part of something greater than herself, a story that had been waiting 20 years to be discovered, now alive in her hands and in her heart. The twin suns sank lower, painting the canyon in warm gold and orange hues. Clara and Jeb stood together, looking out over the desert plains of Aralon. Somewhere deep below, the artifact pulsed gently, alive and patient, waiting for the right hands to guide it. And Clara knew, with certainty, that the secrets of the past were not lost. They were alive, waiting to shape the future. Her adventure had begun in fear and uncertainty. Now it ended with understanding, hope, and a promise that the canyon, the ranch, and the planet itself would thrive under the careful guidance of those brave enough to listen, learn, and act with respect. The desert wind whispered through the canyon once more, carrying the sound of life waiting to grow, nurtured by those who had found the courage to reach into the depths. And the orb, deep beneath the surface, pulsed gently, content.